So I got this book from Don. This is The Last Ninja of Koga, the autobiography of Fujita Seiko, which is Dororon Saigo no Ninja. And I also got this one that I'll do in a different video. The Secret Tricks by Fujita Seiko, Hojutsu Yarikata Zukai. And I noticed when reading this book, some of the stuff he talks about, I was like, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. He's, he discusses his life growing up and how he hangs out with the Yamabushi and all this stuff, and he learns all these magician's tricks. And he discusses doing them in the book. And then he says, how they're done later on. And his explanation of how they're done is completely wrong. And then I just got this today, and I was looking, and there's this one part in here. Don says he's talked to people who do stuff at like Ren fairs and stuff, and they're saying that what Fujita talks about here is missing a lot of stuff. And obviously, since I have books over there from the 1800s and before, there's actually one book from the 1800s where a guy goes to he goes to Asia, because the history of magic is basically before Robert Houdin came about. Not Houdini, Robert Houdin, the guy who Houdini based himself on. Magicians basically pretended to be Asian, so that's why you have like a few of the people who invented the who practiced the bullet catch. One of the most famous ones was a guy with a Chinese name, but he was actually British, because at the time, when you were a magician, you would dress as a Chinese person or an Indian person or things like that. That's why you have like the Indian rope trick, which oddly enough, no one has actually proven to exist in India, and I think there's a $10,000, probably more than that now, prize for people who can do the trick as it is actually described. But yeah, so he talks about a few different things. He talks about drinking boiling water, eating coal, walking on coals. Obviously, those are all tricks. He talks about sticking his hands in boiling water. I was actually going to do this trick, but he says, the trick is that they're at high altitude, so the water boils at a lower temperature. The highest altitude in Japan is about 9,000 feet, maybe a little more than that actually, because 3,000 meters is almost 10,000 feet. But the amount of when you decrease the atmospheric pressure, the air pressure, you decrease the boiling point of water. But at that height, even in Japan, the highest point, you would only bring the water down by 15 degrees. It's 1 degree drop per 500 feet of elevation increase above sea level. So 198 degrees, you leave your hands in boiling water, you're going to burn your hands, So that's wrong. So a lot of this stuff is bullshit. The way that he talks about growing up is, I was the best sumo wrestler. I guess Donald Trump Seiko. I beat all these people. I was in all these fights, blah, 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 blah. But, the one thing, aside from that, when you look at all his bullshit, he did actually inherit scrolls. He says that he received scrolls from his grandfather, which is interesting, because everyone says, he burned his scrolls. That's why there's no record of them. That's why my secret Koga teacher couldn't pass, even though I learned from Fujita Seiko in jail, because I'm, whatever that fat guy's name is, Timothy Anderson, is that his name? Yeah. Fujita Seiko's grandfather destroyed the scrolls, that's why I don't have any. But he says specifically that he had the scrolls, and his scrolls were donated to the museum there. So, that's an interesting thing that you'll learn in here. There's lots of other little parts like that. He talks about the technique that I always talk about whenever someone claims Koga. What's the first technique? That's in the book. I discussed that before, actually, I think in another video. The other thing is, people say that when they talk about him at Nakano, he actually goes into what he taught here, which is interesting. So let me try and find that page. Where is it? go to the table of contents. Let me read the table of contents, actually. That way you know what everything's about here. The preface, and then the Path of the Wild One, Ninjutsu Shugyo. This is where he talks about all the stuff that, apparently he can jump 9 feet in the air, he could run for 1,000,000 miles, all that kind of bullshit. The same stuff that Ito Gengetsu says. Like I said before, I said I wouldn't be surprised if Ito Gengetsu and Fujita Seiko were the same person because they both have the same crazy stories. Actually, Takamatsu has them too, so it's a thing. The Path of the Wild One, Ninjutsu Shugo, Extrasensory Perception. That's another thing. He claims to have ESP. He claims that he could see stuff. He claims all this bullshit. Obviously, he did not. A mysterious type of magic, eighth dawn in rumbling, the full account of a living god, filled with dignity, modern warfare, ninjutsu, rope escapes, and war's end, the banning of Budo and the decline of Japanese people, and then afterward by dawn. Yeah. The ESP stuff, he goes into it for a while here. He debunks people, he's kind of like Houdini in that aspect, but, he also believes bullshit, or puts himself... I don't know if he believes his own bullshit, or if he's playing the part of someone like Sarantakos. Like Chris Angel, kind of, does the same thing. He knows everything is bullshit, but he's still playing a character. David Blaine does that. He plays a character. Yeah. So... there's lots of crazy stuff like that. So I said, what the hell did I say? 139, 189. 139, yep. Okay. So, he discusses what's taught in the training that he did at the Nakano. So... the truth about Nakano Spy School. He says, the Kokoryu that I learned was modified to be taught here of service to my country in these days. But he says actually the written Kokoryu, which does not mean that it's Kokoryu Wadaha. It means that it's taken from the Bansen Shukai. And he talks about Yonin no Jitsu, Chikari no Jitsu, which is... showing yourself that I know, blah, 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 blah. Suigetsu no Jutsu, Inin no Jutsu, Kenin no Jutsu, Aiken Jutsu, the walking methods he talks about, Jikai no Jutsu, Inkei no Jutsu. Then, basically all this stuff is, 5 points on something, 6 points on something, blah, 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 so it's taken from the books, it's not taken from his, training, so it's not Wadaha. Tori no Ichu, Katsura no Otoko no Jutsu, which is planting an enemy in the camp, which is, I think that's from Sun Tzu. Kunoichi no Jutsu, that's obviously Bansen Shukai stuff. Satojin no Jutsu, Aminomushi no Jutsu, Hotorubi no Jutsu, Fukuro Gaishi no Jutsu, Tendai no Jutsu, Shikyo no Jutsu, Yamabiko no Jutsu. Yeah, so this is all not stuff directly from him. This is stuff from the Bansen Shukai. I still say get the damn book. Well, obviously I say get the damn book, even though Fujita's making up half this bullshit. Obviously, Ito is making up half that bullshit. And, that's just the way that it goes at that time period. You made stuff up. You tried to make yourself sound cool. You sounded like you had a history of whatever. Did he actually learn ninjutsu? Who the hell knows? Probably. He had scrolls. He had something. Is sticking needles in your arm ninjutsu? No, obviously not. Is fucking eating coals ninjutsu? No. I don't even know what the fuck he did. He just mixed stuff together. Is standing on the damn tops of your feet ninjutsu? No, it's ballet. So, when I actually read this book, this one, which I'm going to start doing as soon as this video ends, I'll talk about that, but obviously I have experience with this kind of stuff, I don't know if he even actually hung out with the Yamabushi, if he's coming up with these explanations that are wrong. Like, there were people like Mike Mullica, um, if you don't know who Mike Mullica is. But some people claimed he was a regurgitist, but he wasn't. He was just doing sleight of hands. There was actually a guy who the hell was it? He was just on Britain's Got Talent, and he was doing a regurgitist act, or a regurgitator act, whichever word you want to use. It used to be regurgitist. But he was actually using the techniques in his mouth to make it look like he was regurgitating. But there's there are other regurgitating techniques, which are like the human water fountain thing. So, if you did the human water fountain thing, you'd think that it was some kind of Naruto guy, but some stuff is real, some stuff isn't. Some stuff is fake, and people know how to do it. I don't think Fujita knew how to do it. Eating tiles, eating glass, yeah, there's a way to do that, but you have to drink something else. I don't think Fujita knew that. Did he drink 60 bottles of sake? Maybe he drank 6 and was so drunk that he thought he drank 60. I don't know. Lots of bullshit. Everything in this very interesting. Buy the book from Don. Last Ninja of Koga, autobiography of Fujita Seiko, Saigo no Ninja Doranron. Doranron Saigo no Ninja, I mean. Yeah, it's awesome. Lots of bullshit. Lots of good stuff. Was he actually a ninja? Who the fuck knows? The end.